Griffin. Welcome to the Different Take Podcast. If you like this content, please subscribe, like, share, comment. Really appreciate you watching today. I got the pleasure of speaking with Antonio Jones, who is originally from Birmingham, Alabama. Has been in Gwinnett County about 10 years. He is self-employed with lawn maintenance and landscaping business, and also he's done web graphics in the past. And appreciate you doing this, Antonio. And
Oh yeah.
tell us a little more about yourself.
Thanks for having me on. Yeah, I got college in 2001. Moved down here to Georgia. I was did a lot of audio engineering for some artists. Was into the hip hop culture, but my life took a turn. I just had to get out of that. And I right now, I got a show that I host called War Room Gwinnett County. And the reason why I started that show was, I just see a lot of things going on in the environment, and I just felt like I needed to get involved and apply myself, because our communities, our schools, and everything like that, it's important. Being a husband and being a father, those things are important to me, and it's imperative that we, unify to be able to fight back against some of the stuff that we're seeing. But I was born and raised Birmingham, Alabama. I was a sports guy. I played Little League all the way through college. We won 2 conference championships, so I got 2 rings from that. So I know what being on a team is like, and having respect and regard for, the other players. So that's where we are right now.
Very nice. Very nice. I've seen you do some interviews on the school, the Gwinnett County's school system,
Mm-hmm.
which are really interesting. I actually just did an interview with a university college professor. It's kind of interesting. To his credit, he was very candid. He said, I can't make up my mind on what they're trying to do is a good thing. Although he said, and he's referring to this restorative justice business, which this policy that the school board voted in, there's been a big uptick in violence.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
he attributed that not to the change in the policy, but he questioned whether that was a COVID related kind of thing.
Yeah.
But at any rate, it was an interesting conversation. But I want to ask your opinion on this, because this is kind of what I kind of
Well,
wonder about.
before you move on, let me
Yeah.
speak to the issue on the restorative justice. I forget the lady name, but she's with Gwinnett Stop. Another guy that's Anthony Downer. He both of these 2 individuals, the young lady, I want to say young, but the lady that runs Gwinnett Stop has been on the record, and we played some video clips of her on at War Room Gwinnett County, showing where she's requesting that police officers be removed from school. And what that signals to people that want to participate in criminal behavior is that it's free reign now. We're not going to prosecute criminals. And I hate to go there and say that about students, but if you're participating in criminal or gang activity on school grounds, that's criminal behavior, and that puts you in that classification. That's not me putting you and classifying you as a criminal. So the restorative justice is a thing that's coming from top down. When I say top down, these are things that we're hearing parroted, from Washington, D.C. all the way down to our local level. And you're seeing this widespread across the country. And one of the reasons we started War Room Gwinnett County is we wanted to create a place where the information could come in, and we can, because it's a lot of information coming out like really fast. So we want to make sure that we assemble the information in its original form, but we put it in a form that where people can understand it. But to answer your question, the restorative justice is actually, in my view, a rollback of putting consequences on criminal activity and gang related behavior.
The way I was looking at it, and I agree with you, the way I was looking at it, you've got a certain level of a standard of behavior. Before the board made the decision to say, okay, suspensions are last resort. So they made that decision. I know when I was in school, if somebody get in a fight in front of a teacher, they were getting suspended. So
Yeah.
you knew you were getting suspended, so you didn't fight, you know. But anyways, but the thing that I was thinking about was they made that decision knowing that the incidents weren't going to go down. They were only going to go up. So then you have to ask yourself, well, was those level of behavior at the time that they're contemplating this, is it acceptable or not? And so that's what I wonder if they even thought about that. My impression is they didn't really consider that at all.
Right. It just seemed like a blanket remedy for, everyone. The one of the main things that I kept hearing was, minorities were being disciplined at a higher level than other races. And you can't take a blanket consequence and pick winners and losers based on some quota that you're trying to meet. You have to apply disciplinary consequences and actions towards students based on whomever is doing it. Should be done on an individual basis. We need to leave race out of it because that has nothing to do with what shouldn't have anything to do with who you apply the disciplinary actions against. They should go against any individual that's fighting, being disrespectful to teachers, committing violence on school grounds, fighting any type of criminal or gang activity. That's how it should be. And the reason why this restorative justice came in is supposed to be some type of virtue signal to placate to the narrative that's being pushed all across the country on the media. It's became a political situation when it never should have been politicized in the first place.
The thing that's interesting about what you just said was the idea that, okay, the problem is you don't have proportionality. So to obtain proportionality, we're going to implement this policy, but there's no guarantee you're going to get there. Just because you change the policy doesn't mean you make any improvement on that. So that's never really in the things that I've read and seen and heard talked about, and I've watched a lot of it, read a lot of it. I don't understand how you get to where they say that you want it, where you supposedly want to go. It doesn't seem like you can even get there.
Yeah. What the premise is, again, is that people of color, minorities are being disciplined at higher rates. You don't get there by trying to meet some quota or rolling something back to say, well, if you got 10 people that got in trouble and 7 of them are African American or people of color or whatever you want to call it, you don't roll back disciplinary policies just to tweak a number. What's going to happen is you're going to have an uptick in overall violence. This is extremely simple. You prosecute or you use disciplinary actions across the board evenly to people that are committing acts that are breaking the rules in schools. This is really simple, but it seems like, in my opinion, in my view, that the leadership in Gwinnett County school system, we got a lot of great administrators and teachers. They do a great job. They put up with a lot of stuff, and in my opinion, they don't get paid enough money. I'm talking about the leadership right now. In my opinion, I feel like what I'm seeing with the leadership, this is all across the country. They're more interested in optics and in placating to what the narrative is doing and telling people. And these kids in these schools, I've said this on previous interviews, they're watching the media. They understand that the teachers are up under a lot of pressure to not discipline them. So that's going to cause an uptick. Kids are going to do whatever you let them get away with. And that's just the bottom line. I got kids. I got 4 daughters ranging from ages from 5 all the way up to 21 years old. They'll do whatever you let them get away with. So what you have to do is you have to set a set of rules, and you have consequences associated to those rules that you set, and you apply them across the board. You don't let one kid get away with something and another get away with it. That's the way you keep everything even. You can't decide whether you're gonna do a disciplinary policy or action against somebody based on the color of their skin. That's a racist move, and that's just the bottom line.
Lowering a standard instead of raising standards. I just, if you try to look at it even-handedly, the board probably never thought, I know I'm being redundant, but they probably never even thought about, okay, is the level of violence and disruption acceptable now? And, oh, well, it's great now. Well, if it's great, you don't want to jeopardize that. If it's not great, it's got to go up. It can't go down. But anyway.
Right. Well, I saw a statistic that came out, and it has to do with expulsions.
I saw that too.
Did you see it?
Yes.
There's only been 2 expulsions in the last 2 years out of almost 200,000 students. Dude, that's like a police department saying out of 100,000 residents, we've only written 2 speeding tickets or 1 speeding ticket. That's impossible. That means everybody's doing everything exactly the right way, and that don't make any sense to me. That's an anomaly, So
the other thing is interesting about this is in all other phases of society, you go in a courtroom, you go in a restaurant, you go in it wherever, you're not going to get away with this kind of stuff, or shouldn't. And so to allow this disruptive behavior and sacrificing the education of the vast majority for a few, it's not helping the few either.
Right. It's completely unacceptable. I've had parents that have reached out to me on Facebook, and they've said that I had a lady that said her daughter had been jumped on by a group of kids or a kid or whatever the case may be. They wanted her daughter to sign a contract saying that she would avoid them moving forward. To me, that looks like you're giving the victim in a situation more responsibility or less room to move around than the person that's committing acts against people. What's that signaling? That signal that someone who's getting in trouble, who's causing problems, it's okay what you're doing. We're going to try to figure out what's going on with you. No. You set a set of rules, and if those rules are broken by whomever, you apply the consequence evenly, and all of this stuff will stop. But right now, it looks like and appears to me that the people that are committing these acts of violence at school, that are jumping on these teachers, okay, the one guy went to jail last week. Okay, but what about all the other times that I've been hearing on the ground that the teachers are sending in referrals and things like that, and they're being pushed, getting pushed back to them? It's not that the rules are not in place. They're not allowing the teachers, they're not processing students, I'm hearing.
If I was a teacher, and I think most teachers would say this, I'm trained to be a teacher. I'm not trained to be a counselor. If you have to your point, and you're exactly, if you look at the general population, the number of people that the media claim to have serious mental health issues, and you have only 1 expulsion, that's really, really kind of strange. But
right.
But my
wait, hold that thought. Speaking of which, I went to the Dr. Therese Johnson held I guess a town hall about a week ago. Was that last Monday? But anyway, they had all these mental health professionals sitting on the stage, and the premise was that an overwhelming amount of our kids have mental health problems, right? And then, like you just said, that don't even make sense with the numbers. You only had 2 expulsions in the last 2 years. Here's what I think, and this is complete, my theory of the case. If these kids are allowed to use this as an excuse. Just say they implement all these mental health professionals into the school, and kids say, hey, this kid's cutting up, so just go down the hall and talk to Mr. So and so or Miss whatever. And they put this kid on paper for having mental health problems. I don't think the parents understand the kind of issues of rights that they may lose on down the line. Because if you're on paper for mental health problems, I don't think you're going to be able to get a firearm. I think you may run the consequence of getting this kid, instead of getting them corrected, them ending up on prescription drugs when they may not need that. So these are the two things that we need to be talking about and thinking about, while, in my view, they're trying to push this mental health professionals onto these kids. As soon as that becomes an excuse and that's your way out of trouble, you're going to go on paper and you're going to run the potential of this kid or child losing his Second Amendment right and potentially ending up on prescription drugs. That's what I see is the Trojan horse in this. And this is purely my speculation of it, or just, a bird's eye view of what's going on. And what made me think about that was, I saw up in New York, the mayor said that he was going to administer mental health help to people, certain groups of people, whether they wanted it or not. And that just clicked off in my head. And I just happened to go to that meeting that night, and I started thinking, what's the purpose behind all of this? Or potential
This has
purpose.
this has to be done with parental involvement. I mean, this has to be a conscientious mental health care provider is not gonna just, that's what concerns me also, that it's sort of a cottage industry that, okay, well, schools hire these vendors. Well,
Yes.
if you're conscientious, you're gonna want to deal with the issues. You're not gonna want, if there's serious issues, general population of the school isn't the answer, because you're not going to solve the issues that way.
Yeah, you're not. And when I listened to them, Bill, the other night, when I took the microphone to ask them questions, I said, I haven't heard, out of 4 quote unquote professionals, I hadn't heard the word parent come out of their mouth one time. Not one time. So if you really want to, which I believe they're probably not interested in addressing the issue at the root of the problem, you would go and try to provide parents support that, maybe they didn't quite grow up in a home where, it was a functioning mother and father, and they may have missed a ball or dropped the ball on some ways to raise this child so that he or she can come up and know how to be respectable and do the right things in classes and at school. Where's the support mechanism for that? No, we're going to pull you in here, tell you got a mental problem, potentially see if we can get you some drugs. And, what's that going to look like down the line?
The thing that's interesting about that is there's no reason to believe that there's a higher percentage of students with mental health issues that live in an affluent neighborhood or a poor neighborhood. Why would that? There's no reason to believe that you have that. You're born with a chemical imbalance, because that's across the board.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that wasn't discussed either, but you're right. When you go on the website for social learning, I think the acronym is CASEL. You can go through all the videos, you can read the material, and you will not see the word parent mentioned hardly at all.
Yeah. Because in my view, this is a replacement mechanism rather than saying, hey, let's talk to parents. Let's get the parents involved. I didn't hear that. I didn't hear an overwhelming amount of suggestion that would be the right thing to do. It's just, hey, bring your kids to us. These are the experts. And I said, well, when a parent has a child, especially a mother, they have an instinct that you can't give to somebody else. It's just not, I was raised by a single parent mom, and there were plenty of people, you need good coaches, you need a good support system. I grew up with, didn't find out who my dad really was to the age of 12. And I shared that with one of the ladies that I had a side conversation with there at the meeting, but they need sometimes a support mechanism rather than a replacement. Maybe it's some things that they didn't quite get or quite understand. Parents don't need to be replaced. They need to
Yeah,
be encouraged to do the right thing and to do their job as a parent.
most parents would want their children disciplined if they or punished if they broke the rules of school. Most good parents would want that. When I was talking to this gentleman today, which he had a great deal of experience teaching, I don't, but I know there are parents that get angry when their children get punished because they want to protect them. But if they
Yeah.
truly did the deed, a lot of parents would want them to get guided in the right direction.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we have to remember that educators' job is to teach. That doesn't stop at teaching you some things or some values about, hey, here are the rules, because mathematics is based on a lot of what? Rules.
Logic.
Yeah, logic. So if you don't follow that logic and those rules, you get the answer wrong. And so the same applies when it comes to obeying the rules of society, of what's good, what's right, and what's fair to other people. And if we don't do that, then the children are in a position where they're going to get a lot of things wrong in life. And I told the people up on that panel, I was like, well, we got home, which is extremely important because that's the foundation. But the school system is a second opportunity to try to get these kids corrected before they go out and give them something to leave with that's of material value so they can go out and earn a living and be a productive member of society. So if we're not doing that at the second level, which I believe is the school support system, then they're being failed again. We have an opportunity to address it, talk to the parents, get that right, and say, hey, these are the rules, and your kid's a problem. And this kid can't be a problem for the other 20 kids or 25 kids that are in this classroom.
And give them a
They
chance
have
to
to be
correct it
protected.
at a young age.
Yeah, do it early. Do it
Not
early.
wait till you're 14 or something.
That's right. I couldn't agree more.
Because, most serious mental health issues don't appear till later in life. They're not typically not. You don't see the symptoms early in life.
Right.
So that's the time to kind of get the behavior correct. But I don't think from what in my personal opinion, I'm a business guy. So the school board, I'm looking at it, they're going, they had to know at the time they voted for this because all voted for it.
Yeah.
Republicans and Democrats. And they had to know that this was going to create a really huge problem, in my opinion. But I don't think they're going to go backwards.
Yeah. Well,
they're not going to reverse the policy.
Yeah. And the irony in that, statement of them not going backwards is they already have gone backwards. I'm a sports guy. Everybody knows me, know it. I don't watch a whole lot of sports now because I'm so busy, but it's just ingrained in me, the game of football. Let's take, Nick Saban or what's the guy, Kirby Smart. So these guys have very successful programs. What I would say is you don't go in to Kirby Smart's program or Nick Saban's program, fire the head coach. Let's do away with all his plays and, his policies and even discipline policies and conditioning to implement something that's total experimentation. You don't do that. We don't do that in the game of football. And we're doing it and playing with these kids' safety and their education. There has to be, and it's in my speculation of it, there has to be another agenda attached to the reason you would do something like that. We don't do this in sports. And to hire Calvin Watts, and I did a whole the video on what I'm saying now is the one that kind of made War Room Gwinnett County take off. Was I did the comparison and analysis of Will Banks, and who he was, all of his accomplishments while he was in Gwinnett County, as versus Calvin Watts, who he was out in Kent, Washington, all of the articles off of the NPR websites out there, which basically states that his policies and what he's doing here is the same thing he did out there. So my next question was, what was the search firm or team or whatever you call them? What were they looking at? What did they research to say, hey, I think this is going to be a good guy to come in here and bring in here after Will Banks. I think we'll pay Will Banks. You leave early. We'll give you over $500,000 to get out of here early. And here's basement, which is completely subpar. We're going to bring you in here. None of this makes sense for a county that has had the best, county overall, in my opinion, in Georgia, and one of the best school systems in the country. That's like firing Nick Saban or Kirby Smart saying, hey, let me get some guy in here that's subpar. Let's try his program for a while. We've been winning championships. We've been ranked amongst the highest in the country. Come on, man. This is all this is mind-blowing to believe that this isn't calculated, that this wasn't thought about, because I'm hearing the same thing all across the country. And it is my view and theory that in order to take Georgia, you got to destroy Gwinnett County, because GC, which is Gwinnett County, is the DC of the state of Georgia. Atlanta, irrelevant. It's already destroyed up under whatever leadership they're going down there. And in order to make sure that this state swings a certain way, you have to ruin Gwinnett County. And that's why I started War Room, because we're going to stand up against the noise. And this ain't political, even though political policies have implications and ramifications for decisions that are made. But this show that I have for the people, which consists of other contributors, is the voice of the people. And we're not going to stand here and let you destroy the county, without a fight, with hypothetically, not hypothetically, but, whatever legal way that we can do this nonviolent, that's what we're going to do. Because I understand what's going on, because I keep up with national politics, global politics, and they're trying to destroy this state.
It's intentional.
And they want to take they want to get to these children, and they want to indoctrinate them. And that's just the bottom line. Look at the books that's showing up in the libraries and stuff like that. Look at the sexual education that they're trying to move to for these kids. Sex education should be something that's discussed by a parent to a child at home, not the school system's job. It's not, unless you're talking about general overall health. That's right. my opinion on this.
Right.
Then look at Balenciaga and all these ads and things that are coming out that's all over the internet about the perversion and stuff that's happening. You don't think it's a group that's interested in captivating the mind of our children? Absolutely. And they'll do anything to do it.
Well, it's that kind of, it's hard to believe that you're going to have the vast majority of parents are going to get that aren't interested in a good education and a good environment, for a safe environment for the child's education, that they're so dumb that they don't understand that's what they're doing. So I tend to agree with you. It's intentional. It's just sort of ingrained. It's sort of like a religion or something, I think. But, do you know a parent that would say, I mean, I wonder about this across the whole United States, one school where the parent sends their kids to school and they say, my God, the school's standards are too high for their behavior. They punish them too often. I mean, I don't read that or hear that anywhere. Do you?
I've never read it, because here's the reality. Here's the math on that. If you have a school that does just what you just said, you'll have very little problems. It is out of chaos that people gain power. And when the chaos is not there, they just simply create it. Right. And that's what I truly believe in my heart is what's going on right now.
And it's hard to argue with it. The other thing I was going to ask you is, I don't care who you're from or anything. If you're a parent and you have a choice, and I asked this professor this, but I don't think he understood this. So even if you lived in a bad neighborhood, but your school had a very high level of discipline, which does happen, doesn't happen enough, but high standard of behavior, you'd want to send your kid to that school. You wouldn't care about the proportionality of it.
No.
You wouldn't want better proportionality and they're liable to get stabbed or something.
Right. Because here's what would happen. You could take them two same scenarios. And like you said, if a parent had a choice to where, hey, this is a school, they don't play down here in the street, down in here, this school about discipline, or vice versa. You got a school where all this crime is happening. Okay. You could take the same household, send the kid out the door. The parent's going to give one or two warnings. They're going to say, hey, school A that you go to, you got to be on your P's and Q's, because if you got to obey these rules or you're going to get in trouble. Or you can send them to school B. They're fighting all the time. When you get down there, you got to watch your back every day. You might get shot. You might get jumped on. You're going to have to warn your child about something. So you get to make the choice of what that warning is. And I'd rather have me telling my kid, hey, you need to go down here and stay in line, because Mr. So-and-so, if he catches you doing this, you're going to get suspended. And then you're going to have to come home and deal with me. That's
a great point. Well, that was such a great point. I think we ought to end right there. I think you had to go anyway, but yeah, that's a very good point. I never thought about that. Warning one way or the other.
One way or the other, you're going to have to warn your kids about something, and they are going to have to make choices no matter what goes on. You as a parent, you get to decide what that choice is. Right. And you get to support one thing, one way or the other. And you get to challenge other people that are interacting with your child to be a good support mechanism based on what that child needs for their future. And it's time to start thinking about their kids, positioning them. It's time to start, like I say this to my wife all the time. I say, look, we need to be thinking about our grandkids. I got all daughters. So when we're raising them, I'm thinking in the aspect, I'm raising a wife and a mother for somebody. What does the discipline need to look like in this house? What does the rules need to look like in this house so that she can be the absolute best wife and mother that she can be for that child or for that husband? So everything that we do is based around those things first.
I couldn't have said that any better. Well, it was really good talking to you. I really appreciate it. I got Antonio Jones here, and hope we can do this again.
Oh yeah, and make sure you follow War Room Gwinnett County on Facebook. You should be able to find us on all platforms. Hopefully we'll be able to have Mr. Bill on our show, and we'll get to interview him, and so he can let everybody know some of the great things he's doing here on this show.
Well, I appreciate it. And you've been watching Different Take Podcast, Bill Griffin. Please subscribe, like, share, comment. I really appreciate you watching. Thank you.